Artificial intelligence has become a common buzzword in nonprofit tech, but remains a mysterious concept for many. In this week's discussion with Peter Burns, Tobes Kelly, and Khaled Osman, we tackled key questions around AI through the lens of a nonprofit. What is it? Why does it matter? Who is it for? And how is it best used? For those of us who aren't experts, maybe Peter, you could give us your high-level overview of what is AI? What do nonprofits need to know about it? What is the difference from machine learning? Kind of give us the 101.
AI is more of a bigger conceptual construct that kind of changes as to what you would call AI over time, whereas machine learning is the actual pattern recognition of the algorithms, I would say.
From a nonprofit perspective, any perspective, what it does is AI allows you to decide and own that decision as to how you spend your time. And what I mean by that is like on which customers or donors, on which channels, and what topics should we be putting in front of these customers, frankly, at what time, on which device. So it's getting us as human beings a huge amount smarter. And I think that the outcome is a far superior experience for the supporter or the donor.
We're trying to understand the different behaviors of donors or users, the population we serve. So you can't think about all the possible solutions as a human being. And as you guys said, with using some AI tools, you can come up with a very unusual correlation between things.
So what if, in a dream world, you knew that some of your constituents were unlikely to open an email, but they would positively respond to a text message or a Facebook ad? You sort of take that one more level and you say, okay, so what if you could then segment constituents based on those characteristics, right? Based on that behavior. And then you can place them on different journeys based on the predictive insights that you're getting, right? So then you've got a closed loop scenario, rich in data. That's the AI, right? That's what's helping you realize this superior experience.
One of the things I think is really exciting about AI and freeing is it takes the guesswork out of a lot of things. There's a lot of discussion about what words should be used. Is it help? Is it support? Is it give? And then you have people in certain positions of power who have preferences. They personally think this. Well, got news for you. The numbers say otherwise.
I read there's a quote from, I think it was Peter Drucker, and originally I think he had said like, what gets measured gets managed. And I think certainly in the next 5 years, 10 I can't speak to, but like I think it's now what AI measures, AI manages. And I think with a little human input, I think that organizations will really, really benefit.
So we're using large data to look for patterns of behavior that inform us as to what we could change to get a better result, but it does not tell us why people are doing what they're doing. But we see that pattern does do that, and then therefore we would use that data to then adjust the giving to adjust to take advantage of that kind of situation.
I'll give you an example from UNICEF. You'll be able to anticipate the what variables are going to influence what outcomes. Now it's up to you to come up with the outcomes, but it does give you a real sort of deep sense of control over the experience, a better experience that you're able to give to a constituent.
It's all about a donor intention. Donor has an intention to donate. We want to make sure we facilitate that.
We think this is really very important for us to target the population in a better way, to make sure that we have the resources, to make sure that we push the message that we want to push, to create the community that we want to create and build around our mission in general.
So because of the AI, we have become a lot more efficient, both in terms of our spend and our targeting and the results that we've driven. But in the back of our minds, the why are we doing this? It's the adoption of how do we think about patterns? How do we think about analyzing patterns? How do we think about why we need to be predicting what actions that people are going to take. What is that business result we're trying to drive, so that we can, yes, drive a better experience, but again, like it's coming down to our big KPIs, which drive the revenue, drive the engagement and retention, and get more donors, turn the supporters into brand advocates. At some point, because of the AI, which is understanding preference and behavior, we'll convert them to a donor. We know that. But what's more important is that they can come in and they have a fantastic experience.
People have that opportunity now to kind of free themselves of less about guessing about what's going to work. And to Tob's point, it allows you to really hyper segment your population, so you can really speak to them. I mean, donors are consumers, right? The thing that we tend to forget is that they are a consumer, and you are selling a product, and that product is an emotion. So if you start selling that emotion, that's what I'm buying, and then along the way you abandon that, I'm going to abandon the process, and the numbers hold that up. I mean, the abandonment on nonprofit websites is off the charts relative to for-profit companies, for example.
When does a nonprofit reach that threshold where they have the sizable enough data to start thinking about more advanced analytics like this?
We've been collecting data for a long time. We've been working for 12 years with information, and all type of information. And frankly speaking, every time we change the information we collect is based on either a donor requirements or grant requirements, or something is triggering that, or at least we want to understand more about this population or that population to serve them in a different way. So it's a good question that at what point we can say that we have a statistically significant data to use and analyze. And on the other hand, as a nonprofit, also we look into the capacity and is that requires any in-house skill to design the data, to design the collection while maintaining privacy, looking into, it's a big topic these days. Everyone is really concerned about. For you guys, that's probably my question, is where we can say that we have enough information to start using an AI platform.
Don't expect anything to happen until we've hit at least 1,000 records. So 1,000 people have donate. Then we can start to see beginning of patterns specific to the org. Right? So prior to that, it's all Uber community data, and then it starts after 1,000. Then there's going to be some behaviors that are going to start to be tweaked specific to that org.
I think that's really valuable to flag for people, that it isn't just the UNICEFs of the world that should be paying attention. It is much smaller organizations can benefit.
Maybe it's helpful as well to some of your listeners to know that if they need pro bono help with data science, it is available. Mm-hmm. So yes, at UNICEF, we have Salesforce Marketing Cloud, which is fantastic. It's huge. Not everybody has the budgets that UNICEF has. So just prior to this call, I was looking into some other options, and one of them called DataKind. Delta Analytics is another one, and then Bayes Impact. And I've come across all three with consistently great reviews. And they have pro bono setups for organizations of any size that will sort of send volunteers to spend some time with you. And so if anybody that's listening to this and, just not knowing that they don't have the skill set, that skill set shouldn't be a barrier.
Should they be concerned about risks of overreaching or overstepping?
The most common criticism, Mitch, that I hear of machine learning is that we don't always understand why it behaves the way that it does. It's like computer programs. If you put garbage in, you get garbage out. This is all about bias, right? Now, how do we reduce statistical bias or social bias in this data? And I think that's where there are some very meaningful conversations happening right now, and rightly so. Like saying, if we train the algorithms in a certain way, then necessarily we're going to get socially biased results. And so while statistical bias is just a fact of mathematics. So to be controlled for, but not feared, if you then approach, though, another angle, which is a sort of uncritical acceptance of the output of an algorithm, then you're kind of in the wild, wild west. And that is scary, and that does need to be controlled.
Well, I think privacy is the major risk. The concept of giving the what they call the subject matter, or the person, the power to tell you how to use the information that you collect from them is really growing, and I'm just sometimes I get worried when and maybe that's because I don't have enough information about AI systems. But as you said, if you send me an email asking me a very specific ask, that's going to trigger something. Hey, there's something going on. It's like when you open your browser or Facebook and you see an ad of something you've been looking into your phone. So that makes normal people worried about their privacy. So I guess that's my major concern.
You got to ask a boatload of questions, right? You don't know what you don't know. And as I've had, a number now of conversations, not just with, organizations that have a product or a platform, but individuals at large organizations, smaller nonprofits. One thoughtful way that sort of approach that I have used or have talked about is put yourself in the shoes of the donor, because it helps you then look at the tasks that you have in common, for example, with other nonprofits.
One of the absolute must-haves is a big data. You have to be collecting a lot of data for it to have any meaning. It's something like it just gets better and better with like good wine, over time it gets better and more accurate and more distilled. For example, today we use it for giving amounts. Not too far down the road, we'll be able to suggest to people like Tobes what the content should be, what the design should be. Someone could be able to eventually plug in, we are a food bank on the East Coast of the United States. And we're going to say, it should say give, not support. It should be blue, not red.
I wonder if one of the best ways to ensure that AI is used responsibly is to, insist that builders sort of commit to a set of principles, which then sort of never assume their own so-called righteousness, right? Principles that would include like the cleanliness of data, signing up to always be treating data and what you have at the process like a clinical trial. Like, don't hold on to what you don't need, right? Milk does go off, so does data. That sort of mindset. And to the point about privacy, like, absolutely. But there's no way that organizationally should be holding on to personal data if they don't need it. I don't think that you can repeat enough that practicing good data hygiene is gonna put you in a much better position.
How people are handling, or providers handling, individual or personal information should be right on that question list we were listing earlier to tell the difference if there should be a privacy concern.
Donor and donation and in general, opportunities management is part of the population we serve as a service provider, an IT person. But we also have programs, how we deliver our program, how we track different KPIs, and how we collect different type of information about the program, and how we provide insights for the leadership so that they can take the right decisions and plans. We have volunteers, and how we get them engaged, how to continue. So what I'm trying to say here is, as a nonprofit, we always try to do a lot more with as little as possible. So yeah, we're thinking in donors is basically, and donation is the core of how we grow and scale. But at the same time, we look into solutions that can touch all these parts and can provide information in all these areas. That's usually part of the way that we look into different providers and systems.
I would just be interested to hear from the three of you, like, where do you want things to go? Like how, if you had could determine like how things operated differently in 10 years within the nonprofit sector specifically, like what would you love to see change and evolve?
There's a huge potential for AI to serve nonprofits, when they start thinking and how we're gonna substitute our annual events with the virtual events, and how different fundraising platforms can support that shift. So I think it's a huge change on the way everyone is doing their day-to-day business.
I know there's plenty of other opportunities for offline giving and relationships that AI could play an effective role in as well.
It seems like there's an opportunity from what Khaled brought up about a virtual engagement. So not just actual donations, but in how people are able to engage with your cause on an ongoing basis, right? You don't need that once a year event to have a meaningful interaction with someone around your cause. So I think that's a huge, I don't know the technical answer of how you achieve that, but it seems like that's a really big opportunity area to make some real change.
AI could help with volunteers, organizing and finding volunteers. It could be very powerful.
We saw a big tip on the number of applications we received during the last few months with COVID. So people tend to respond in so many different ways to different issues. It's just amazing the number of people that want to jump in and support and help in any way possible. So, as a nonprofit, we had to find a way to, keep them engaged, and a virtual way actually to keep this moving and have them as part of our team and support our advocacy work. Even they are a good indicator of how we can support the population we serve, and we're really thrilled to just to see the numbers of people who are willing to step in and support. So yeah, it's about thinking about how you can accommodate that thing and how we can keep them engaged.
But the bottom line there, though, is that AI is going to help organizations improve their decision-making processes about what it is that keeps them engaged. That's an important takeaway.
We have this proliferation of engagement opportunities. There's a lot more efficiency to be gained between them. And I think that's an exciting opportunity as well, as you have all these options for people to help. It's not, fundraising is a great one, and hopefully will be something everyone partakes in that's involved with your organization eventually. But managing outside of that, I think, is a really cool space too.
But maybe on a more basic level as well, like if you can be infusing intelligence with just automating processes at the HR level, even when you're hiring in candidates, like that's helpful. There's a lot of manual work, I'm sure, across fundraising in most nonprofits. You can take that away. You could actually get some more time back. And maybe you have more time back to pick up the phone and actually have a conversation with prospective donors.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this week's discussion. Be sure to join Empower Us for more resources and one-on-one help in finding the tech solutions you need. If you have any feedback or suggestions, you can email us at info@empowerus.org. Thank you.